Rishi Sunak and that ECHR, shall we? He's having another go, isn't he? The Prime Minister has hit out at the complete overreach of a ruling by the court that imposes a duty on governments, all governments, to achieve net zero. Sunak's latest rage at the court has fuelled speculation that he's considering including a pledge in the Tory manifesto to pull out of the ECHR. Let's see what my panel make of this. Now, Kai, we set up the ECHR, didn't we? I mean, so we were there.
Yeah.
This decision relates to the group of Swiss women, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Who went to... They took the government to court saying, you're not clamping down on climate change fast enough. You are putting our health at risk. And the court has ruled on this, and Rishi Sunak is saying it's out of their jurisdiction. Yeah. But that ruling affects all of us.
Yeah.
So basically it's saying you have to get to net zero or you're legally in trouble. What do you make of this?
I mean, look, I think the headline screams, right? This looks ridiculous. But the fact is, the ECHR is the bedrock of so much of the legal foundation of what we have in this country. Now, the UK drafted the legislation that instituted the ECHR. It's one of the UK and Europe's greatest post-World War II achievements. Now, you know, this idea by Rishi Sunak that he can pull out of the ECHR as a bit of a gambit, that, I think, is for the birds. It shows his terrible political judgment yet again. I think he keeps trying to find these ideas that will save him from electoral annihilation. The budget, stop the boats, and now pulling out of the ECHR. Now, I think the political question is, why is he trying to grasp at straws that keep not working? And the legal question is, you know, you can pull out of the ECHR. I don't think that's going to change a damn thing, frankly.
Is it a vote winner, Mike?
Well, look, the ECHR was set up originally to protect people from totalitarian regimes, i.e., we cannot let the world develop a new Holocaust, and we must protect people in Russia from the communism and the atrocities that brought. That's what it was set up for. It's completely not fit for purpose these days. I mean, did you know that this judgment by the so-called judges panel, the ECHR, was in association with Friends of the Earth? Aided by Friends of the Earth, some 2,000 older women claimed that the Swiss state was exposing them to an increased risk of death from extreme heat. What a ridiculous and ludicrous proposition to put before a bunch of judges. The other thing is, I will tell you, Kai, which I'm sure you probably know, the European Court of Human Rights does not even consist of legally qualified judges. They are people appointed to it by the apparatchiks in the European Union. It's in the same building as the headquarters of the European Union, and if you're a mate of somebody who's high up in the European Union, you can get onto the ECHR. It's completely dysfunctional. It's a load of rubbish. I hope Rishi Sunak carries out his threat to say, if you keep stopping our planes taking off with people to Rwanda, we will pull out of the ECHR because we are no longer fit for purpose.
I think that answers my question about whether it was your vote. I mean, obviously the Rwanda bill is back again this week, isn't it? Before the Commons again. Ping-pong going on between the Commons and the Lords. So that's why we're talking about this issue again. But, I mean, would it win votes? I mean, do people care about that? Or are we more concerned about the NHS or the cost of living crisis?
Absolutely. I think people, when you knock on doors, people are not concerned about the ins and outs of legislation in Parliament. They're concerned about what's happening in their local area. They're concerned about what's happening on their street, potholes, that kind of stuff. I mean, really, the ECHR is not the reason why Rwanda is failing. Well, anybody else who tells you otherwise is lying.
Well, hang on. We tried to export people to Rwanda.
Also, to go further, the fact is only 1.45% of all the violations of the ECHR have been committed by the UK. That's all that we've been accused of. Now, out of 22,000 plus violations, that's really not very many. We're talking about such a tiny issue here. And the fact is, the Rwanda bill has been scuppered for many other reasons than the ECHR, and we should come to terms with that.
Yeah, I agree, including internal opposition in this country. But we've now got an opportunity. You may well as know as I do that the bill's coming back before Parliament this week, and I'm reading, I'm not a political expert, that the House of Lords have now dropped their opposition to it, so there's a good chance now it might move to the next stage. And the last thing we want is an anonymous judge in Europe, remember the last one was anonymous, signing off an order in the middle of the night that plane can't take off from England. It's outrageous that they have that control over us.
And the Conservative Party do seem divided on the issue themselves. Why?
Yeah, they do.
There are some that are saying, yes, it would be a good thing. Others are saying, a bit like you, Kai, no, it actually wouldn't make that much difference. So, I mean, is this really something that we should put to one side, concentrate...
But then you give up, Dawn. Then you give up on a policy which has been his flagship policy. I accept a lot of what people say. It's turned into a gimmick because it's never going to get off the ground. But if it does get off the ground, then he's justified in doing it. I mean, remember, the original thought was to see a load of aeroplanes at Stansted Airport, one after the other, taking off and going to Rwanda. But it has been so fiercely opposed internally, and you're right, a lot of people on the backbenches on the Tory side in the House of Commons don't want it in the same way that they oppose Brexit, because actually the Tory party is not any more made up of people who follow true blue Tory policies.
Well, we know that even Rishi Sunak himself, when he was Chancellor, didn't agree with the Rwanda thing. He thought it was it was never going to work.
Yeah, he inherited this policy, and he's felt that he needs to follow it through.
Well, for political credibility, you're right.
It's BS, isn't it, really? I mean, the fact that he thinks that he needs to send these planes over to Rwanda, and what he wants is that image, as you say, Dawn, of these planes flying off to Rwanda before the election. It's a gimmick, and we should see it as
the
that.
United
We
Nations
shouldn't give it any more thought or airtime, I think.
The United Nations send people to Rwanda. From Libya, refugees from Libya end up in Rwanda. Other countries in Europe, Holland and Switzerland, funnily enough, are investigating going to Rwanda. It is a policy that is viable. You've just got to make it work.
Yeah, unfortunately, what other countries do, we're not allowed to do because we're probably racist for some reason. In any case...